Hello everyone, I'm Fred from ProfilProg.com, and today I'm talking with the Amos Williams from the great UK progressive metal band TesseracT. How you
Hey
doing,
man,
Amos?
good. I'm good. Thank you, man. How's it going?
Good, very good, thank you. On April 20th, you guys will be releasing your fourth studio album called Sonder. Can you please quickly describe the album and the theme or the storyline throughout the album?
Sure thing. Yeah. Well, Sonder is a word that comes from quite a unique dictionary that was created by a poet called John Koenig. It's a word to describe an epiphany, a moment of realization that your life is replicated in other people's lives in terms of detail and in terms of depth and texture, and that all the little things that are going on in your life every day are going on and are multiplied throughout everybody's lives. So, for example, me talking to you, you have an equally as rich and detailed life as I've had today. You're going to go and do all the things that you do, and I'm going to do all the things that I do. And this is throughout. This is replicated throughout everybody in humanity, and it's something that we often forget. We're walking around in our own little bubble, and we forget that there are people surrounding us all the time, and they're having a really full life, and everything that's led to that particular moment of them being at that particular space in time, all the way back to our common ancestors, is real. And it sounds like the most obvious thing, but it's something that I think a lot of us forget. And especially when we interact with each other, we often seem unaware and oblivious that the other person matters and the other person is having as real a life as you are.
That's very interesting concept for sure. Uh, like the previous album, Polaris, was
Mhm.
this album also recorded in Acle Caney's studio in the UK?
It was, yeah, 4D sounds. That's where it was primarily mixed and mastered, and most of the recording tracking was took place. There
Okay.
was all the vocals were done at Dan, his studio, which is his project studio is cool. Oh, I'm very sorry, I forgot the name of it, but we've got links to it up on our website and that. He does a lot of vocal tracking and vocal production for people, and I did a few bits myself, just in my project studio, which moves around the world because I've been moving around the world too.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that the band has always been quite on it technologically, so we can be pretty much anywhere we want to be, and we can create. For example, we recorded a whole set whilst up in the north of Finland, in out in the snow, for the company Jägermeister.
Wow.
We did a show out there for them. That was fun, but it was a challenge to trust all the gear and hope that it's going to work at minus 10 Celsius. So what's that? That's about 15, 20 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe less than that. Yeah, so it's pretty damn cold. But it all worked, and it's just testament to how great technology is these days, that really we could go anywhere in the world so long as there's a power supply.
Yeah.
We could try and record an album. It'd be fun.
And I guess it allows you more freedom time-wise, I guess,
That's the
to
thing.
write your albums.
Yeah, I mean, there's less pressure to
Yeah.
get an album done in a certain time in one location, but at the same time, everybody has ramped up their production speed, so that's now a pressure on us that we've got to basically be releasing an album every 2 to 3 years,
Yeah.
which would be all right if we weren't touring for 2 to 3 years every time we release an album. So it's a catch-22 moment, but I'm looking forward to seeing how this album's received, because it may give us, if it's received well, it may give us a little more time to spend a year in album production rather than, say, 6 weeks to 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
Because that's the sort of thing that every artist wants to do. They want to get lost in their music for a year and see what comes out at the end.
Yeah, that's the perfect world. Can you walk us through writing the lyrics and the music for TesseracT? Is it a joint effort?
We kind of let Dan, the vocalist, we give him free rein when it comes to the vocal content. But obviously myself, I've always had quite a strong opinion about themes and presentation of the music. So I will, if I feel something needs to be changed, I'll definitely get involved with Dan and talk through, like, trying to get something more clearly across to make it far more universal, and maybe sometimes less literal, maybe more abstract. That tends to be my process when it comes to the lyrical content. In terms of music, the primary writer is Akko, but we have, particularly this album, we've had, the rest of the members have had far more of an input than on the last 2 albums. So it's more like how it was on the first album, where we'd all been writing together for about 6 years before we released that album. So it was more of a cohesive unit effort. So it's nice to see and hear some of the riffs and passages that have been composed by, say, members like James. The last single that we had, King, he came up with the initial riff idea, and then Akko used that as a springboard, and then to finish the track, but then we played around with it a little, and it was nice to see that as a far more a unit affair than just an individual songwriter.
Okay. Yeah, well, talking about riffs, the drumming on Sonder seemed to take the lead on some of the songs. Was there any songs that were written based on the drums riffs? I think it would be maybe like Luminary had a bit of percussive lead on that. And actually, I know that the verses in Smile, the first thing that was actually put down was the drum pattern. And that's, well, I mean, it makes sense. It's a very rhythmical pattern and section. And in fact, the harmony at that point goes out the window. It's quite a atonal section with, I think you have 4 notes that it's just moving around, and they're all close to each other, so they're all semitones. So you lose a harmonic structure at that point, or you lose a definitive harmonic structure, and that actually makes it quite difficult for the singer to write over, because he could go in the wrong direction completely and it would still sound in tune, so to say. So those are 2 examples of where something was very much rhythmically led. Okay. Well, because I love the drums on the album. It's very
cool.
Nice.
Excellent.
A part of the song King is sang using growl vocals. Some progressive rock bands nowadays are running away from growl. Would you say this has become your some kind of a signature for you guys?
No, I mean, we basically moved away from it ourselves for the past 6 years. We definitely were looking to become more melodic, and maybe we moved a little too far. But then at the same time, it's more what's right for the track. And like Polaris, there just wasn't any room for it. It would be like adding it for adding its sake. And on Altered State as well, it wasn't really something that was the vocalist at the time, Ash. It wasn't his forte. to be screaming. He wasn't comfortable with it, and plus the tracks weren't themselves leading towards that. But for example, on One, the first album, yeah, there was room for it, and it really needed it. And also, we felt that we had to do it because that's what everybody else was doing, and we were a young band at that point. We didn't have the balls to stand up and say, all right, well, let's do something different, because we felt we needed to try and get people's acceptance and attention. But at this point, the tracks are darker, they're a little heavier, and it makes sense for Dan to bring the screaming out of his into his arsenal again and see where it can take it. I think it works well when it's used sparingly. Personally, I'm not a fan of just screaming, but the thing is, it works well for some bands, like say Meshuggah. You'd have a hard time listening to Meshuggah with melodic vocals. I mean, maybe it would work, but they've never tried it. So, and I don't think Jens wants to do that, so it probably will never happen. I like dynamics, not just in volume, but also in content. So for me, it's nice to have it as a part of what you do, but not necessarily all you do.
Totally with you on that, for sure. Where would you say your music influences mainly come from, and has it changed through the years?
Yeah, it changes all the time, and it's always affected by who we're touring with, I think. Like this album, I think, would be influenced by the attitude and the atmosphere created by our recent touring partners, which were people like The Contortionist, people like Meshuggah, and we did a tour with Megadeth, and even that would have had a slight effect on us because we're feeling that the things that we enjoy about those bands' music, we would then want to apply to our own music, because obviously if we're enjoying it, it means that we're going to enjoy it when we perform it. So I think subtly, regardless of who we're on tour with, we will definitely have that influence our music. But in the past, obviously the stuff that we listen to, like Tool, like Deftones, like Meshuggah, but then there's also some of the more off-the-wall stuff. Like I personally, myself, I love listening to minimalist classical music and crazy things that aren't really that applicable to TesseracT, but they do sneak their way in there. Like if you listen to Smile, the bass line in that, without doubt, is heavily influenced by a minimalist approach. And it's kind of cool that I managed to sneak that in there and get away with it as well. And that is the sort of, myself and like Akul and our live producer and studio co-producer Aidan, we always try to fit things in that you just wouldn't expect, because it's fun for us to try things like that.
This time around, you're going one step above, and you produced a binaural version of the album on a double CD. This is like a 360 listening experience. Can you elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, sure. So essentially what it is democratizing surround sound. So for surround sound, you need 5 satellite speakers plus a subwoofer. Sometimes you don't always need that, but that is a lot of money that people have to put out. Whereas with the binaural mix, it's just headphones. And a lot of people have access to that technology. It's not unusual to have a pair of headphones. So it's, whilst it's not as effective as the surround sound speaker system, it is still pretty damn cool when it works. So it was just an attempt to take that level of production interest that TesseracT always has in new ideas and new technologies, and to see if we could make that work with our music, because there's a lot going on. Like King, for example, there's like 140 tracks going on at any one point. It's just crazy. So it's nice to split those up a bit in a spatial, from a spatial point of view, and see if we can not only make the instrumentation become something that is no longer just left and right, but also front and back, and maybe a bit of up and down. But also the ambience, so the sound of the rooms that we're trying to record and things like that. So hopefully it's worked, but it's something that I'd like to do more of in the future, because it's something that is very applicable to TesseracT's music, I think.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to give that a try for sure. How does Sonder stacks up with the previous albums?
It's darker, it's more melodramatic, it is more melodic, but definitely in a heavier way, if that makes sense. So whilst we're pushing things in a more of a dynamic way, down a more dynamic direction, sorry, with the melodic side of things, there's definitely a reach towards the heavier things as well. So it's a bit of a, not an oxymoron, but it's a bit of a, it does things in a far more extreme way, but not necessarily extremely heavy, just the polarity between the melodic side and the heavy side is greater than we've ever done before.
Great. What would you say you're the most proud of with this new album?
Personally, I just think the cohesion. I think it's nice that it's moving in a very clear direction. It's worked, I think, for us as musicians and producers. We've been able to achieve what we set out to achieve, rather than just come out of the studio and go, right, well, we got an album. This time around, I think we've actually succeeded in getting the sound that we wanted when we started writing.
Okay. Would you say that the present, like 2018, is a great period to write and play TesseracT music?
I think we're either on the cusp or we're riding the wave of a good interest in progressive music. And not just progressive heavy music, but pop music as well, that steps outside the brackets of what pop is. I'm looking forward to seeing more crossover and more fusion as more and more people get interested in progressive music. It'll be nice to see it stretch out into more popular realms, but also it'll be nice to see what happens with more heavy music as well, and how that gets touched by the interest in progressive developments of not just music, but the art that's associated with the music as well. It's interesting to see the stage shows that people are trying to put on now, the performances, they're thinking about it more. Artists are far more interested in how they present themselves as well. So it's nice to see the artistic elements that maybe are reflections of previous generations of, say, bands like Genesis and bands like Tool and Pink Floyd, where there was a very strong artistic focus, and that moved into not just the packaging but the performance of the music.
You're soon be going on tour to promote Sonder. I saw some very nice meet and greet package.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Fans can expect from TesseracT in the near future?
Well, I mean, we've got the North American tour. Then we're doing like a handful of festivals over the summer, and then there's some really cool stuff that we're talking about in Asia at the moment. I'm looking forward to going back to Australia. We're touring and going back to Europe as well to do a headline tour. And hopefully we're talking at the moment about trying to do another live concert film. That'll be really cool. Just need to make sure that the band pull their fingers out and make that happen. Basically, it'll be really great if it does happen, because where we're planning to do it is a fantastic venue. It's one of those things, if the label are into it and management are into it, then it's going to happen. It's going to be fun. But it's a lot of planets aligning, if you know what I mean. We've got to get it all to work at the same time, because it's not just the sort of thing that we can say one day, let's do this. You know, there's months and months of planning to get it to happen correctly. And now there's crazy laws as well, which are to do with data protection and that have been installed in the UK in like the last 3 or 4 weeks that mean everybody that attends a concert that's going to be filmed, they have to give written permission. How do you do that? How do you get people to do that at the door when they're coming into the venue? So that's a bit of a head fuck for our legal team to work that one out. So maybe we'll have to do it in a different country. Who knows?
Yeah.
We'll see. But it's going to be fun either way to work that one out.
For sure. We're almost done, but we at Profile, we always ask a few questions that only require
Sure.
one-word answers.
Excellent.
So if you wish to say pass, you just simply say so, and we'll move on to the next.
Okay.
Okay, in what country you still haven't had a chance to perform, but you wish you could?
Chile.
Chile. In what country would you say is TesseracT the most welcomed?
Australia.
Australia. Who's your favorite bass player?
Jaco Pastorius.
Good one. Beside TesseracT, what is your favorite progressive rock band from the UK?
From the UK? Oh, wow. That's a tough one. Sorry about the dead air. I was thinking seriously that from the UK. Well, I mean, Harkin.
Oh, nice. One of my favorite band as well. Name one band you could easily compare yourselves to. Easily is a big word.
Between the Buried and Me.
Oh, good choice. Name one song that you wish you guys had written, or that you wish you would have written.
Shove It by Deftones.
Deftones. One word to describe Sonder.
Melodramatic.
Love it. You've been releasing a new album every second year. Can we expect a new one in 2020?
Hopefully.
That's one word.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Amos, for doing this. And
That's a pleasure, man. Thank you for taking the time.
And we're looking forward to seeing you in Quebec, Canada real soon. I know you're coming to Montreal in May, so I know a lot
Yeah,
of
we're
people are
playing
expecting
Club Soda, I think, in
Club
Montreal.
Soda. Very nice venue.
Yeah, it's excellent. The sound is brilliant there.
Exactly. So thanks again, sir, and wish you best of luck with the new album Sonder that's going to be released next month.
Excellent, man. Thank you so much. Good talking to you.